Today we'll go through how to have Ableton Live play your keyboard for you while you're playing live. And we'll go into a little bit of context on why you might go this route, why I chose to go this route. So if you don't want any of that, then feel free to skip ahead and just to dive into what we're doing. So I already know there's probably going to be some speculation, when you're using backing tracks, there already is, people are like, oh, well, the audience is hearing stuff that's not being played live. We could go into all of that. I'm going to skip over that. This is kind of another thing of, oh, well, I'm not playing live, but you're hearing my keyboard being played. But I would argue that I'm playing more live, or because I'm having Ableton play a rhythmic part because I want to jump up and play a lead line that comes in at the chorus or somewhere else in the song. So I'm playing a harder part and having Ableton play the easy part. So just some thoughts there. We won't spend any more time on that. So why did I need three hands? I have three keyboards, and this will also work with less than three keyboards. We'll talk about that later. But I play in my reggae band, I play the bubble, which if you're not familiar with reggae, it's an organ kind of rhythmic thing that goes on in a lot of the reggae songs. And then I play the piano part, which is like that offbeat that you always hear in reggae. And then I will jump up and down from playing lead lines that come in. Maybe it's like a instrumental, the intro, the outro, or a lot of times the chorus, a lead line will come in. And I want to play as much as I can because it's fun for me. I love playing the bubble part, and so I don't want to put all of that in the tracks and never play that because I love doing that. But if I do that for the entire song and put the lead line in the tracks, then I don't get to play the lead line. And back to what I was talking about, there's already so much going on with, oh, well, tracks are faking it. I want to play the hard stuff, even though it may not be hard. It's still a fun thing for me to do. It's something different. There are still a couple songs that I'm not doing much else than just the rhythm parts. So in the songs that have a lot more parts to it, I want to take advantage of that. So when I first started introducing this concept of when I want to stop playing the bubble part and go play a lead part, I just put it into the tracks. So I would just cut out the times where I was playing the bubble, and then I knew exactly where I was going to jump up to play a lead line. I would give myself about 2 beats of kind of headroom so that my hand could jump off of one keyboard and onto the other to get set to play the lead line. And that's when the tracks would kick in with the bubble. So for a little bit more context, our band, we run just stereo tracks left and right. So there's not a lot of separation. We don't run with front of house all the time. Sometimes we do, sometimes we don't. And we're in a situation where we like to keep things as simple as possible. So splitting different outputs would just complicate it. The issue with having that in the tracks is if you want to turn up that bubble part, then you have to turn up all the tracks. And if the tracks are up here, my live keyboard bubble is up here, but then you kind of hear the bubble and the tracks come in down here when I stop playing it. Well, then you have to boost the tracks and everything up to get that feel to stay the same. So I was trying to think of a way that when we go to a venue and they don't know our sound, they're not our front of house that's running with us for a show, how can I get that bubble to stay the same? My first thought, and you can do this, although I don't recommend it, was to throw a VST into the Ableton session and just send MIDI from my keyboard into there, and then I can record the bubble ahead of time and go ahead and put it in Ableton where I know I'm going to stop playing it live, and then it'll kick in whenever I wanted it. And that idea worked, and I tested it out in some rehearsals and it works great. It goes against one principle though, that if you follow Will Doggett from studio to stage, division of labor is a big thing, and I don't want to bog down my computers with these plugins. So one plugin is probably not a big deal. It's probably not enough to crash my sessions the way that I have them built and how little CPU they're using, but it still goes against this principle. On top of, I have other sounds that I want to use in the Nord, so we'd still have to run a line into the Nord, and I wouldn't use it solely as a MIDI keyboard. So it kind of complicates the setup just a little bit more. So then I was talking to a good friend of mine, Matt Goodwin, who plays with The Movement. Shout out to Matt. And I was just like, hey, this is kind of an idea I've been working with because we both kind of use this trick to, play lead lines, play the bubble, because we want to have fun. We want to play the things that we want to play, but still have a good sound out front. So I sent this to him, and he was like, well, you could also do the opposite where you send the MIDI from the MIDI track into your keyboard. As long as it can receive MIDI, And as long as you record in the right octave range that your patch is set up for, it should work no problems. And depending on your MIDI setup, you may have to adjust a little bit of latency, but once you get all that set up, you can have Ableton play your keyboards. And so I was like, that's a great idea. And so I took the same concept with the VST, and instead I just took the VST out and I sent the MIDI from the MIDI track into my Nord. And this can work for other MIDI keyboards as well. If it can receive MIDI, it can receive program changes. More than likely, you can send MIDI from Ableton to play your keyboard for you. So I hope that all makes sense on why I chose to do it this way over just putting stuff in the tracks. Again, I didn't want to give up playing the bubble part completely, but at the same time, I wanted the sound to be consistent. There's also another side of when you have your inner mix and the bubble wasn't as loud as you want it in the tracks, you kind of lose that in your inner mix. Whereas now I'll have 3 keyboards playing at the same time on the inner mix. So you'll see 3 audio channels light up, even though I'm only playing 2 and Ableton's playing the other. And so it's a big difference in the ears to be able to feel all the parts and be able to mix that separately too. So I hope you can understand why I chose to go this route. And it may seem a little complicated. Not everybody's going to use this trick or think that it's a great tool to have, but some people may like it. So I hope this helps out. It was cool to see this idea come into effect, you know, from Will Doggett and Matt Goodwin, from their knowledge that they passed on to me, and how we can create a solution for when you don't want to put things in the tracks. So how do we do this? This is super easy. If you've watched any of my other videos or any videos on how to send MIDI patch changes from Ableton to keyboards to MIDI gear, we use the same concept here, except for sending program changes, we are sending MIDI notes. So we're going to record the MIDI notes, and then we're going to set the output to go into the Nord. So I'll go over a few things, but if you know how to make connections, if you know how to send program changes, you may skip ahead again. So my connection piece here is the Mio XC, and this can again work on any kind of MIDI connection that you have. For my live setup, I send this over a 100-foot Ethernet cable into a Mio XM through a USB cable into my keyboard. So we'll jump into the Nord. So this will be the same exact channel that your program changes are on. So if you've already got that set up, you don't need to worry about this. For me, my MIDI channel is going to be 2, and you can change it all the way up to 16. We'll keep it on 2 for now. And that's the only setting that you have to make in the Nord. If you have another keyboard, then just go into your systems and see what channel that the program changes are on, and we will use that for Ableton. All right, so let's jump into Ableton. So Command-Comma to get to preferences. Because I'm using a Mio XC, I'm gonna actually disable that because that was for a different video I was filming. Because we're using the Mio XC, we are going to click the output port under track. We'll click that. And that's because we are going to send MIDI out into the Mio XC, which goes into our Nord. And I'm actually going to backtrack. We do need this input checked right now because we're going to record from the Nord into Ableton. But then when I go for my live setup, I'm going to make sure that I disable that because I don't want to accidentally send any MIDI from my Nord into Ableton Live. And we will talk about another way to do that too, but just to be safe, whenever you go to play live, make sure to disable that. We'll exit out of there. I'm going to press right there and then go Shift-Command-T to create a new MIDI track right under that track. And from here, this will be our workspace. So I'm just going to name this Nord, and we'll call this workspace for now. And we are going to choose the Mio XC under MIDI input, and we are on channel 2. That's just a good practice. That way we don't have any MIDI coming in from anywhere else. And so now let's choose a song. So I'm gonna go, I think this song would work well. I've noticed best practice, if you can get your drummer and your bass player, and again, this is reggae stuff, so this may be kind of a reggae thing versus other genres of music. But for me, I got my drummer and my bass player. If we can get together and we can record this live, the feel is just a little bit better. There are some songs that I have just recorded with the drums on the track and the click, and they turn out pretty good too, but I have definitely noticed just a little bit better of a result when I get them in the studio live with me to play with them. So you can kind of think, if you need to go by feel, then definitely get the band together and record this while the band's there. The beauty of it is once you set it up once and you like it, you don't have to do it again. For this example, we'll probably throw some drums and some bass in there and then the click, and that'll pretty much be it. Again, I have good results with that, but great results with the live band. I'm gonna press record and we'll play along for a little bit and we'll go from there. So record enable there. Perfect, that should be all that we need. Let's see. Again, this is kind of feel too, so it may not, for this may not be right on the grid, which is fine with me. And this is again where I got better results when I did it live. So let's jump into here. It's your choice if you want to go through the entire song and record the entire song, and it's going to be dependent on what you're recording. This is a part that goes pretty much the entire song. You know, for this, I'm just going to take this and find kind of the best part, and I'm just going to loop it and then drag it out through the entire song. So now we're going to play this back. So I'm going to go to the output port, choose the Mio XC, and I will choose channel 2. I'm also going to press solo because I have my ghost group soloed right here. We need to press solo to make sure that the MIDI is sent out as well. And now this is where the magic comes in. So if I mute the tracks, that is Ableton playing my Nord keyboard, which is pretty cool. So I like this second bar right here. So thankfully it's just a 2-chord phrase, so I don't have to worry about that. If I was using this for my actual song, then I'd probably spend some more time making sure that I get everything recorded exactly how I want it. The feel is right on. This is just an example, so we're gonna roll with that. So we'll jump into this MIDI clip right here, and we'll just loop this. So let's grab this brace and move it here, and that should be good right there. And now we'll press on that loop right there, and that should get us in. We'll have to adjust that loop brace back over here. That's what I was looking for, and this should loop perfectly. Yep, that is perfect. So we will minimize this part right here, and I want some more room, so we'll take away our return tracks. So we'll just loop this, we'll bring it to the very intro of the song, and if you could look below, there might be a little sheet on what we're gonna do next and how I actually use this live, because this is my live organ track right here that I use. So now we have that to the very end of the song. This is a medley of songs, so this is a brand new song right here. And so basically from here, I will go into the song and I will find where I need this to come in and where I play the parts live. So we have it easy today because I've already done this. This is my organ track that I actually use live. So right here, I'll just press Command E, and then over here, we'll go over here. And this is in this turnaround where I bring the part back in. And so this is where I give myself right here the 2 extra bars to jump up, because I'm playing 3 keyboards. This is my bottom keyboard, and I have to jump from this one to the top keyboard. So 2 bars is more than enough time to get up there. I could just do 1, but I kind of wanted to keep it consistent through all songs. So I know exactly before I play a lead line on all of my songs, I have 2 beats to get my hand from this keyboard to this keyboard and in the right place. So we'll take that and go Command E. I'll click that part. That's the part that we don't need, so I'll press 0 to disable that. And then I'll go right over here and press Command E. And then we'll go right here and Command E, and then we'll disable that. You could delete these if you want. If you know you're never going to use them, go ahead. I don't think I will ever use them, but I just kind of like to keep things just in case. What if, what if one day you're like, oh, I don't want to play this part at all, and I just want to have it played the entire time? Then I can just easily go into here and and now we have everything ready to go. So like I mentioned, I play 3 keyboards, so whenever I jump up to the other keyboards and Ableton starts playing this Nord, I'm never playing this while Ableton is playing it. I have had some times where I forget to jump up in time and I'm playing while Ableton is playing the exact same notes, and I haven't had any issues with that. I'm not sure that I can say that about every single MIDI keyboard and how they work, but I know that there is no issues if the bubble is up here and I have a piano down here and I have Ableton play in this register, then it's not going to affect this piano that I'm playing down here. This is something that you want to go test out on your certain keyboard that you have. That way you can make sure that there is no interference if you have layered patches, things split, octaves move, that kind of thing. So just do some testing on your own to make sure. So let's give this a shot. Let's demo this. I'll back you up here in Ableton. I'll play both parts, and then you'll see as Ableton picks up, I'll drop my right hand off. You will still hear the part playing. So that latch that you heard, that's a great thing to mention in best practices and thing to watch out for. If you press pause right at the exact time that there is a MIDI note being sustained, it will sustain the note onto here. In a live situation, you pretty much 99.9% will never just stop the tracks. You know, if your band gets off, you solo the click, and we'll talk about what to do there later, how to map all that. But you should never just press stop. So that should not be an issue. You may in rehearsal, you know, you're stopping and starting, you may have that issue come up, and I've had it come up in rehearsal, but I've been using this trick for well over a year now, and I have never stopped my tracks live, and I've never had an issue with this live either. So back to what I was talking about with the splitting keyboards, if I have a different MIDI keyboard and I just want to test that it's not going to be an issue, say I have my piano sound right here, right? And I have the octaves that I can adjust right here. I'm going to play this and just go through every single octave on the piano to make sure that none of those octaves at all interfere. Cool, so we just went through all the octaves on that sound, nothing interfered, and that should go for any of these different sound engines on here. So with this Nord, we don't have to worry about that. I doubt on any keyboards you do, but just go through that, make sure that you test every octave, a couple different sounds, make sure that you're 110% positive if you're gonna split and have Ableton play one side of your keyboard while you play the other. Again, in my live situation, I never have to worry about that. So back to the latching issue that we talked about earlier, this is where you have to make a decision. If you're gonna solo your click whenever your band gets off, which is what most of us do, either solo a click, fade out return tracks, that sort of thing, you have to decide what to do with this. If you solo your click and you decide to keep this organ turned off or unsoloed with it, then you could run into that latching issue. So in my case, because I'm recording super staccato, most times if I press stop, it's not going to latch. But if you're playing a line, if you're holding something out and using this trick, then it's probably going to latch. The nice thing is on the Nord, it's not a big deal because I have this MIDI panic button here. So I just press shift and that will basically turn that off. So if your keyboard has a button like that, then I wouldn't worry about it too much. You know, if it may sound weird for like 2 seconds, but you're already losing track, so other things are going wrong, you know. If your keyboard doesn't have something like that, it may be worth considering keeping that turned on. And then if you need to, you can turn the volume down on your keyboard while you get things situated. Again, this is another advantage of me having 3 separate keyboards that, you know, I don't have to worry about splitting and still needing to play a part on this side of the keyboard, but then this could latch, or we may have some issues here and I may want to turn the volume down, but then I don't have this side of the keyboard. So this is all things to consider with your keyboard setup, with your playback rig setup. But I'll jump you into Ableton and we're gonna do some keyboard commands. So Command K. If I was doing this with a MIDI controller, we would use Command M, map this to our MIDI controller. So same kind of concept. You know, what most of us do is we solo the click. So I'll press that and I'll press, I already have S mapped to something else. So we'll use A. So if we want to keep this turned off while we solo it, then you're good to go because soloing the click solos the click. So another way that people do it is they will fade out return tracks, which I do with my live situation. So if you need to, you can actually turn this off by mapping this to the same button that you would press to fade out your return track. So if my fade was A, then I would just press A. And then whenever I press my fade, you know, it turns this on and off. For the sake of this example, let's go back to the solo of the click. We'll press A. So let's press play, and I'll press solo and unsolo a couple times. We'll see if the latching issue comes up. Yeah, so there it is. And so that's when I would just go like that, and our issue is fixed. So it's definitely worth considering whether your keyboard has a panic button like that, how you would navigate this kind of situation live. The one time we had to solo the tracks a few months ago, since I've implemented this trick, I didn't have any latching issue at all. Again, it just depends on what you're recording. So just a couple things to think through there. So from here, you can go through and do this on any songs that you need. Once you're done with recording, I would just set your MIDI input to no input. And now you have this track. Just make sure that whatever live setup that you have, that your MIDI interface and the proper MIDI channel is chosen on the MIDI output. This has worked flawlessly the past year for me. I haven't had any issues. Last thing to consider when Ableton is playing your keyboard, you want to be 110% sure that you're on the correct patch. Depending on how you're using this, you may have different sounds. Your sounds, like mine, could be in different octaves and registers. So this is when I decided to implement program changes, and I'm so glad that I did. If you haven't implemented any program changes from your Ableton to your MIDI gear, then go check out some of the videos I have. I have a program change tutorial on the Nord and on the Roland, and the same concepts that I teach you there will apply to different kinds of MIDI gear, whether it's keyboards, drum pads, and even some guitar pedals and that sort of thing. So I hope you learned something today. I hope that this gives you a little bit of inspiration and it helps you out too in a live situation. There's definitely a lot of things to consider. So this is not for everybody. This is something that's worked well for me, but definitely, try this out at home, try this out in rehearsals. Don't just go and program this set and then go into a live show and try it out there for the first time. If you like this kind of content, be sure to subscribe, and I will catch you on the next one.